Hey guys, Mark Holmes here, and of course I got Michael Anthony Fitness right behind me here. And as always, thank you guys for watching, commenting, and subscribing to the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, this doesn't work. Well, today we are back on the field for 3 days for mini camps before the big break. And it is expected that David Irving, let me say again, David Irving is going to be on the field practicing. We know that the team wouldn't let him work out in OTAs because they said he was not in shape. And, you know, they were kind of disappointed about that, but he's tweeted out there and put on Instagram that he's been dealing with, family issues and things. And today will be the first day that he's really actually out there working with the team, so that's a big bonus, a big lift. Hopefully between now and the next 5 weeks before training camp opens, he can really kick it into high gear and get into shape. It's also expected that Zack Martin will be on the field today. We haven't got final word on his contract being signed, but evidently it's really, really close, and hopefully that thing is done and it's out of the way.
66.5.
Well, yeah, that's what we're hearing. 66.5.
But the terms haven't been.
Yeah, and that's what I'm interested in is the terms of what it's going to be. And like I said, I'm just happy that we're getting this resolved. You know, there's other players that are out there that are working on getting their contract and stuff redone and renegotiated. Julio Jones is one of those ones who is looking, well, actually talking about an NFL Network, who's actually looking to redo his deal even though he's got 3 years left on it, because he's looking out there and seeing all these guys getting paid. And I'm actually working on some numbers, statistics, where I'm breaking down and looking at whether or not the Falcons should go ahead and invest and put that money in there. But my preliminary numbers say at this point in his career, you don't pay him anymore. There's a natural curve that is out there, and like I said, I got to finish crunching the numbers because I'm just using, players from back in the 70s, players in the 80s, players in the 90s, and we're looking at some data and crunching it together so that way we'll come up with a realistic conclusion. But it's pretty amazing what I've seen thus far, and I can't wait to talk about that as well. And that's another one of those things, and this is going to be a term I'm going to start using a lot more. Perception versus reality. Because in your mind, what happens with fans is we think about the pinnacle of what a player does. And I used Bob Beamon for example last night. Bob Beamon, who had one of the longest records ever in track and field in Mexico City in the 1968 Olympics, jumped 29 feet, 4.5 inches, literally blew away the old record. Nobody could come anywhere close to it. That's the image that you think about every time you see Bob Beamon, but the reality is that was one time. And it was so far past what he had done by several feet, it was more of an aberration than it was the reality of the career. And that's where we are with NFL players. You think about with Julio Jones getting 136 catches, 3-4 years ago. You don't realize that the last 2 years he's been in the 80s. In fact, only had 3 touchdowns. But the perception is you got to pay the man because he's great. And that's where we were with Dez Bryant. Dez Bryant, and I'm going to go through the numbers and stuff. We believe Dez Bryant, you got to pay the man because you're great, because you're thinking about those couple of seasons that were really good. But the reality was there were issues that go along with it. But we'll go through and we'll look at that as well. And like I said, we'll crunch the numbers and things and get you the real statistics. But remember, perception versus reality. That will be my new piece that's in there. Give you one more great example. Tony Romo was known as the choker, the guy who would always lose it. The reality was he had more comeback victories than Captain Comeback Roger Staubach. Perception versus reality. But get ready to go out, have some breakfast with my daughter. Unfortunately, she's leaving me. But we'll be bringing any news, of course, on the Dallas Cowboys, and I will be bringing you my report that I have coming up. I'm Mark Holmes, and as always, thank you guys for being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. And I'm glad Randy Gregory is working on that reinstatement, and I am glad that David Irving and Zack Martin will be on the field today. I'll see you soon.